Welcome to this afternoon briefing with the Jerusalem Press Club. I'm Jonathan Beck, Director of Content at the club. Our guest today is Professor Eitan Shamir, head of the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies at Bar-Ilan University and former head of National Security Doctrine Department at the Ministry of Strategic Affairs. This was many years ago, and today this department has morphed into a ministry headed by Minister Dermer, but this is irrelevant for the moment. Our subject today is the upcoming apparent ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. From the Lebanese side, this would hopefully be like a permanent ceasefire. In Israel, they're talking about a 60-day pause in fighting. Let's welcome our guest. Hello, Professor Shamir, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Hello, Jonathan. Thank you very much for having me. My pleasure.
So, from the news this morning, it seems pretty much like the announcement of this is going to be a done deal. I mean, a cabinet meeting is scheduled for 4 p.m., but I think the latest news that was reported is recently appointed Defense Minister Israel Katz telling the UN envoy to Lebanon, let me get her name straight. Her name is Janine Hennis Plaschert. She's Dutch, I think, or Danish. And he told her that Israel will respond very severely to any violations. So I would read between the lines that it's a done deal. Now, in the north, heads of communities are unanimously against. Can you put things in order for us? Tell us basically what's good for Israel and from all aspects, defense and internally as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. So I can sympathize with the feelings expressed by the municipalities' heads. I think the sentiment is after 7th of October is very low tolerance for accepting any threat on the border. Those threats were significant, as we found out in the Lebanese border, which was much more significant even than we believed before the operation in Lebanon, before the ground incursion. However, having said that, I think in the more macro perspective for Israel, this is a point of time in the campaign that I think it's better for Israel to go for trying to finalize, to conclude the operation in Lebanon, and this is for a variety of reasons, both domestic and international, and in the sense of where the campaign is currently is.
But the IDF already about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago said that it more or less exhausted its possibilities for more achievements in the land maneuver in Lebanon. So would you say that the push for a ceasefire comes from tactical victories on the ground, or simply from the logistics of having a worn-out reserve force after 13 months of fighting, economy under duress after downgrades and other, like who is pushing basically for the ceasefire? Is it more the political echelon or the military echelon?
So I think it's all of the above. I think we reached a point of diminishing returns in terms of the military situation. So we can keep on pressing Hezbollah, but then you get what? You get another percent or another 2% of hitting Hezbollah targets, and ability to really to create a serious damage. So we are in a point of diminishing return. A lot of effort, getting some casualties, and we probably will get more casualties if we continue. On the other hand, most of the damage that has already been done to Hezbollah. So the idea from the get-go, was not to completely destroy Hezbollah and getting into a situation where it has to surrender. From the minute this campaign was launched, I think there was an understanding that Hezbollah will continue to be an actor, a serious actor in Lebanon. However, it has been crippled severely. And even if we take with a grain of salt the assessment of 20% 20% of their forces only available for them after the Israeli operation, and if it's 25% or even 30%, still Hezbollah suffered a major blow. So on that perspective, again, going ahead will only give you maybe another 2%, 3%, but the casualties and the economic expenses and the rest of the factors that you laid out, like the reserves exhaustion, and to take into account. Now, having said all that, there's also two other things that we have to consider on the more macro perspective. One is we still have finished Gaza, and there are still forces that are required to operate in Gaza. And the situation is not very clear at this point in Gaza, and when it is going to be concluded, the military operation is still going on. Second, there is international pressure on Israel, including international pressure from the US administration. They were saying, I heard that if Israel is not going to go for this arrangement, then Israel might find itself against a UN Security resolution, Security Council resolution that will be much less favorable for Israel. I think also it's something that Israel will do good in terms of closing this front once Trump is going into office. So, Trump, he declared he wants to see the war finishes in the Middle East. So showing him that Israel does make the effort to end the war, at least in one front, is I think is something which will benefit Israel's position.
Okay, so I understand the macro consideration for Israel's long-term security or even its diplomatic standing in the world, but now we have, all those communities in the north representing, I think, in total more than 100,000 people, and really all of them are fuming. They're saying, I mean, Itzik Ben Mocha, who grows chickens, and his chicken coop was hit by a missile, and now grows chickens somewhere else in Zarit. He said from today at 4 p.m. the cabinet meeting is a countdown to the next October 7 on a larger scale in the north of Israel. So, I mean, how is Israel going to square this circle and tell these people to go back? They're obviously not trustful that this is going to be withheld,
Yeah. So absolutely, I think we have an issue with trust, with a general issue of trust with this government, which under this government watch, 7th of October happened, and under some of the same military leadership. 7th of October happened. Trust issue between the people both in the south and around the Gaza border and Gaza envelope residents, and in the north, both of them have issues of trust with this government, and I can certainly understand this. But I think, as I said, the proof is in the pudding. Israel, I don't see a lot of options. Again, I don't see a lot of good options in terms of what they propose. What is the alternative? What did they propose? Now, probably there are some holes, or there's some weak items in this agreement. I don't like they don't like, and one of the things they pointed out is that the residents of those villages in the south on the border, the Lebanese villages, which are a majority Shiites, could return back and rebuild their villages. And what they're saying, okay, so this is really an invitation for them to come back and rebuild the villages. And again, of course, these people are Shiites and they are Hezbollah sympathizers, Hezbollah operative. And we saw that
you don't think they're going to return to rebuild there?
No, in the agreement they can go back and rebuild their houses. I mean, the Lebanese villages on the other side of the border. I'm not talking about the Israeli residents. I'm talking about the Lebanese. And in the agreement, there's nothing that prohibited the Lebanese Shiite residents to go back to the villages to rebuild them. And what they are saying, the Israelis, that the Israeli northern residents, that they are going to rebuild the same outpost of Hezbollah, full of weapons, tunnels, and create this again this military ability, capability to launch an attack into their from the Lebanese border to Israel. So this is something that this agreement does not prevent. Although I understand there is a 60-day pilot, and in that period of time, the next 2 months, they are not going to come back. They will not be allowed to come back, and we will see how the agreement is playing out. However, in the longer term, it's not the case. They will come back. So this is problematic, of course. But I don't see again. I don't see a lot of good alternatives to the overall agreement. I'm not sure. I hear their complaints, but I don't see any viable suggestions what the government has to do. They're just saying, we ask you to solve the problem. Basically this. So we will have to continue to fight somehow until the problem will solve itself. It's not reasonable that Israel will fight until the last Hezbollah operative or terrorist, and until the last rockets, and until the last anti-tank missile. It's not feasible. Again, Israel, as you said, has to some point to conclude the war that has lasted more than a year and took such a toll on Israel society, Israel economy, Israel international standing, and so on and so forth. And I think it's reasonable to do it. Now, any agreement, will be tested by how Israel will react, because yes, we cannot fully trust the unified forces and the southern and the Lebanese army and so on and so forth, and the other international organizations that are supposed to monitor and to supervise and so on. But at the end, it will be all about how Israel will respond, whether these declarations of the Ministry of Defense, as you quoted, are just empty declarations, or really Israel will respond. And it will be tough choices that Israel will have to make, because we have to remember that once Israel will respond, Hezbollah is also going to respond, and this will be an escalation. And again, we'll see a spiral of this exchange of fires. And once you have quiet, and you have back the economy, and you have running, and you have back the normal life, it's very hard to go back to the decision to go back to a situation of fighting is very difficult. And that's why Israel prevented itself from doing it and not responded for many years. That's why they're so frustrated, those residents, because for many years they didn't see Israel acting against it. So they don't believe that Israel will do it again. They just believe that it will go back to the same old patterns that they saw in the past, until the problem grows and grows and grows, and we have And we've seen what happened when it grows out of proportion, when it explodes in October 7th. This is what they say.
So I understand. I mean, obviously, we're not going to see probably in the next 60 days, we're not going to see rocket fire to Haifa or to Nahariya. Potentially, we'll see sporadic mortars at Metula, and then they're going to be rogue elements or whatever. What if we're going to see, I'm not saying us, Israel, its military capabilities, its intelligence, will see Shiites returning to their villages, and the old model, your house was wrecked in the war, we'll build a house, don't ask what's in the backyard, there's a big room, keep it locked, kind of a thing, which apparently was the model for now, because the ideology is the same in that sense. It's about whether it's 2 years or 5 years. If there's no completely demilitarized zone or some enforcement, who is going to promise that it's not going to repeat? And secondly, is UNIFIL again going to be the enforcing agency? Stronger UNIFIL, a reshaped UNIFIL, or whatever?
So, really, as I said before, I don't think that any organization, whether it's from Lebanon, whether it's an international organization, UNIFIL, or any other organization, will do the work for Israel eventually. None of them have the will to take the risk. None of them have the will to go into confrontation. We saw that. So I don't think it will change substantially. The only thing here is that Israel has the, I think, more legitimacy from the United States, who's going to give it a diplomatic shield if in case of escalation. And I think Israel also relies, and I think this goes very much into the part of the calculation of the Netanyahu and his government, is relying on the new Trump administration that will give stronger backing, not only to defend Israel but also to offensive operation, which are also defensive in nature in the terms of preventing. But the Biden administration was very committed for the defense of Israel, to help Israel defense in terms of giving to Israel whatever it needed, in terms of defending it. And we saw it in the case of Iran, the attacks from Iran and so on. But it was not so happy with Israel preempting or Israel offensive operation. So I think the feeling in Israel is that in the government, Trump will be more willing to accommodate Israel's preventive operation. And again, in the end, it's all about how Israel would choose to respond. And it's not an easy decision, because let's take a scenario, and there is a smuggling of a few rockets or a building of his, well, there's two scenarios here. One, if it's like immediate threat, right? This is the agreement. There are immediate threats that Israel can act immediately, and there are other threats that Israel has to go through the threats that are not immediate, but then Israel has to first to notify the mechanism that was set up in this agreement. The French, the US, and the others, that it is going to operate because it has intelligence. So let's talk about immediate threat. Let's assume it's something which is immediate. Then Israel has to make a decision. But okay, you have schools that is starting tomorrow, or you have it's the summer and it's people are in the north are in vacations, and there is tourism and the economy is going well. So then you have to decide if you're going to attack it. And of course, again, you should expect that Hezbollah will respond in kind. And then you're going into a few days or even weeks of fire exchanges that are going to disrupt a big portion of the country economics, the country daily life, even, of civilians. So therefore, the immediate tendency of decision makers is to delay the decision, to delay this, and to hope that somehow it will solve itself. So this will be the big test of Israel, because it cannot afford, after September, 7th of October, Israel cannot afford itself to behave like this. It has to make the tough decision to respond. But again, this is where the trust is playing a big role with the complaint of the people in the north and the leaders of the northern towns.
Can I ask you, Professor Shamir, can I ask you the 60-day time frame for implementing the ceasefire? I don't know what comes afterwards. This is going to be kind of a cheeky question. Is this somehow related to, the beginning of January when the administration changes in America?
If this is because of the change in, I kind of missed half a sentence. You're asking if this is because of the change of administration, the 60 days?
I'm saying they're talking about let's set aside. We're not going to have time for this in this briefing, but let's set aside the fact that Israeli citizens, residents of the north, and even politicians do not know the actual details of the deal. Yeah, which is something that is a problem in itself. But we know about a 60-day time frame. So quickly counting on the calendar, when this time frame expires, the president in the White House is going to be, red-haired, not white-haired. It's going to be Trump. So is that part of the reason for that specific time frame?
Well, I have to be honest, I don't know. But we can try to make an assessment or an assumption. I'm not so sure. I think the timing of getting this deal has to do with the changing of administrations. As I said, there's a lot of things that came together. And this is one of them. It's not the only one, but this is one of them. I think there are a few weeks already now that the government is saying that there is a sense that we should close the northern front, and part of it is also the changes in administration. So I don't think it's the 60 days, because it also makes sense by as it stands alone, like having a pilot to see what's going on and how it is playing out, the whole this whole settlement, and if both sides, we have to see how Hezbollah behaves. If they are committed to it, if they can enforce it on their on their last Hezbollah operative on the ground and so on. There are also, as you indicated, other organizations like Islamic Jihad and other organizations that can try to do some destructions that they may not like. We also heard that Hezbollah, there are parts in Hezbollah, fractions in Hezbollah itself that are against this because they see it as a surrender. And in that sense, we didn't speak about it, but this is a big achievement to Israel, because Nasrallah, before he was eliminated, he just said in one of his last speeches that he's not going to surrender, that until Israel will not stop the operation in Gaza, they will not stop firing on Israel. So this was making the linkage between the two fronts. And now Hezbollah is in such a position that it had to give up on this principle. So definitely a win for Israel, because it's Israel's interest to separate the two fronts.
Yes, there is no okay, we run out of time. There is no doubt that Hezbollah needs the ceasefire more than Israel. It's just that as much as maybe in June or July, the Israeli public was scared that a war with Hezbollah would be dystopian. Then it almost seems now, also with the demographics of Lebanon compared to Gaza, that actually removing Hezbollah from the picture is almost within reach, and we're stopping just short of it. Anyway, we've run out of time for this briefing, so thank you so much, Professor Shamir, for your time. I would like to also thank my colleague Ali Nao at JPC for technically supporting this briefing, and to all the journalists who showed up. This will be later on our YouTube channel as usual. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.